The December 2024 jobs report is in and it exceeded expectations, which means, sadly, for the last time, the Fox Propaganda Network is struggling on air to deal with excellent economic news under President Biden. But before we unpack all that, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bells before you go. All right, friends, I got a couple of clips to show you here, but I really want to start with the final piece of major positive economic news for President Biden. Take it away, CNN, and then we'll go to Fox.
Breaking news, the final jobs report for 2024. What does it show? CNN's Matt Egan is here. Numbers up.
Yeah, John, it shows that the jobs market ended 2024 with a bang. And this is really good news for Main Street, right? It shows that workers are still very much in demand. For Wall Street, this is maybe not good news. We'll get to that. First, let's get to the numbers. So this report showed that the economy added 256,000 jobs in December. That blew away forecasts by 100,000. Think about that.
It's a big beat.
It is a really big beat. And the unemployment rate beat as well because it went down to 4.1%. It was supposed to stay flat at 4.2%. There were some whispers, John, of an increase. Yeah. That did not happen. It went down. Now,
So that's CNN, and that guy talks about as enthusiastically with his hands as much as I do, giving you the positive news. And now we've got to turn to Fox. You know that meme of the girl, she's crying as she's doing her cheerleading routine, right? And that GIF applies, that meme applies to Fox every time they get a Biden jobs report. And so we're gonna play this. It's so fun watching them in real time, trying to find something negative, while also actually, for the first time, or I should say, a rare time. It's not the first time. It's just exceedingly rare. They're acknowledging the economy, I guess, is strong.
To Cheryl with the jobs numbers for December. Cheryl.
All right, so we have 256,000 jobs created in the month of December. The estimate was for 160,000 jobs, much higher than expected. The rate for unemployment went down a tick to 4.1%. The estimate was for a rate of 4.2%. We had no revisions for the rate for the month of November, but for November payrolls, we actually revised to 212,000, and that is a jump of 43,000 jobs. So November was actually raised higher. Labor force participation rate, 62.5%. Average work week hours, 34.3, and that is in line with what we had last month. Taking a look at government jobs, 33,000 government jobs. There is never an estimate, but that is in line with what we had last month. Factory jobs, we have a loss of 13,000 factory jobs. We were looking for a gain there. And then the U6, the underemployment rate, 7.5%. Labor force participation, I think I mentioned, 62.5. Let's get into the actual report and talk about what the government says is where the job growth actually was strongest. They're saying here that employment trended higher in healthcare, government, social assistance. Retail trade jobs also were added in December. There was a loss in that particular metric for the month of November, Maria. So I will go ahead and send it back to you in the panel for analysis, and I will keep looking at these numbers.
Good. We want to understand what this
To find something negative, I'm sure.
Panel for analysis, and I will keep looking at these numbers.
Good. We want to understand what this reaction is. Markets are worsening as you were talking, Cheryl. Dow Industrial's down 300 points right now. The NASDAQ down 215. John Lonsky, your reaction to the better than expected jobs numbers?
According to this latest report on payrolls and the drop in the unemployment rate, my goodness, this is telling us that the Treasury bond market had it right with that percentage point jump by the 10-year Treasury yield, and the Federal Reserve had it wrong with that percentage point drop in the federal funds rate. This tells us the economy's doing quite well, and as a result, inflationary pressures are on the rise.
What is this? The economy is doing quite well. You said that to Maria Bartiromo on Fox News. Of course, no mention of President Biden. And again, this is you just hear it while they're combing through and she has that picture. Well, the stock's down, right? Of course, when the stock is up under President Biden, as it very often is, they don't give a damn about that. But yeah, it's an exceptional jobs report number. It reported, even though jobs reports frequently see revision, they reported that November saw no revision. It's an exceptional report. As somebody pointed out on Twitter, Aaron Rupar, who created or posted this clip, said it's the last Biden jobs report that surpasses expectations, leaving Maria Bartiromo and company grasping for reasons to be negative. End of an era. And somebody quote tweeted Aaron Rupar, but it is the start of a new chapter, Aaron. Beginning next month, you can compare and contrast what I'm sure will be utterly over the top hyperbole and praise for Trump about the very same economy she's been dumping on for the last 4 years. And folks, that's my challenge to you. Remember this. As soon as Donald Trump becomes president, we've seen this before, we will see it again, they will flip very quickly simply on him riding Biden's economic trends the way that they did once he took over from Obama and was riding President Obama's economic trends. Let's track it. Let's mock it relentlessly. Let's expose it to the American people for their stupidity and hypocrisy. Axios reports, speaking of this, Biden job gains top Trump and Obama. The U.S. economy added 2.23 million jobs in 2024, including 256,000 jobs in the final month of President Biden's administration. There have been more jobs gained under Biden's term than under the full terms of former presidents Trump, Obama, or George W. Bush. By the numbers, Biden is at now more than 16.1 million jobs, aided by the post-pandemic economic recovery, which he managed. Let's think about this, okay? This is what I've told you before. Trump supporters will say, you can't count those jobs. Those jobs don't count. Well, number one, they do count. And we know this because the same metrics that we use to measure jobs, the methodology hasn't changed. Those jobs are still jobs. Number one. Number two, jobs that were lost during the pandemic, not all of them came back. So this idea that it's somehow magic, they would have always come back, is bullshit. Number three, it was your guy who mismanaged COVID in the first place. And as the sitting chief executive, by your logic, is actually responsible for all the bad shit that happens. Or at least that's your logic when a Democrat's in charge. And so I'm forcing you to deal with it so we can have the same standard. Now, you always lose if we play by the same standard. That's why you don't want to. But if you would ever blame a Democrat for everything that goes on while they're in power, we're going to do the same thing for Republicans. Again, single standards, you will always lose. Number five, Biden presided over that economic recovery. It was Biden who passed the American Rescue Plan, which avoided a double-digit recession and created 4 million jobs well ahead of schedule. It was Biden who presided over the federalization of the vaccine rollout, which radically increased the rate of vaccinations under Biden compared to Trump. By the first 100 days, we had 200 million vaccinations. It permitted the economy to open back up safely. And even if, as we're going to get into in a bit, even if I grant your premise and say we don't count the bounce back jobs, the rate of increase under Biden and the average monthly job gains under Biden exceeded Trump's pre-pandemic. You still lose. Now, these are just facts. Yes, the facts are much more likely to be on the left side than the right, but the upshot for you all is feelings, right? You guys have done a really good job, Republicans, lying to the American people and yourselves when it's convenient. So don't let our facts get in the way of your feelings. Let's continue. Trump oversaw 2.1 million job losses, although there were 6.6 million jobs added during his first 3 years in office, i.e. pre-pandemic years. Obama oversaw 7.1 million job gains, with losses beginning at the beginning of his first term due to the great financial crisis. Bush oversaw 5.2 million job gains. President Clinton has a stronger record than any of his successors, with a total of 23 million jobs added, although his annual average trails that of Biden. Okay, well done, Mr. President. David Doney, who's one of my favorite chart makers and armchair economists, as he says, really put this together, and I really like it. President Biden's economic legacy in charts. First, the unemployment rate at 4.1% on average is the lowest, best, among the last 14 presidents for Federal Reserve data going back to 1948. The real inflation-adjusted hourly wages for production and non-supervisory workers, the bottom 80% of the private sector, averaged higher under Biden than the last 11 presidents. In other words, workers had more purchasing power under Biden than other presidents, despite inflation. Taking the first two charts together, Biden has the best combination of unemployment and real wages among the last 11 presidents. This is the best reading on the prosperity matrix of any modern president. Biden here, Bush 41 towards the bottom. You can see the significant improvement in the unemployment rate here, which fell from 6.4% when Biden started to 4.1% as of October 24th, the latest Fed data, again, Federal Reserve data, at the country level. Are you better off than 4 years ago? Obviously. Americans also became the richest ever in terms of real, inflation-adjusted net worth across the wealth distribution in early 2022 under Biden. We're still way above 2019. This was from big gains in stocks and housing, plus economic savings and stimulus. About 7 million more are working than pre-pandemic peak, which was regained in June 2022. Even if you start measuring Biden there and compare that to Trump pre-pandemic, which you don't have to do because they never would if the shoe were on the other foot, we're just trying to make the point. Even if you do that, Biden has had much faster job creation. Biden's perfectly timed immigrant surge is projected by the CBO, the most credible source available, to add $65,000 per household to income over a decade, $9 trillion in extra GDP, while reducing deficits nearly $1 trillion. Real GDP growth under Biden was a robust 3%, slightly faster than Trump pre-pandemic. GDP had regained its pre-pandemic peak, by the time Biden started. A secret about inflation is that it keeps debtors with fixed payment, like homeowners and Uncle Sam. The debt-to-GDP ratio has fallen from the Trump peak as nominal GDP has grown faster than debt. It's obvious we're better off than 4 years ago as the pandemic recovery was still underway. But what about relative to 2019 pre-pandemic? Well, in fact, most measures, even adjusted for inflation, were better in 2022 and 2023 than in 2019. And he goes through net worth, bottom 50%, stocks, net worth 50th to 90th percent group, home prices, nominal GDP, hourly wages, inflation. So, folks, what am I getting at? Well, here's what I'm getting at. The fact of the matter is, by the very metrics we have always used to evaluate the economy and presidential performance, this economy is objectively good, and in many ways, objectively better than it was at its peak under Donald Trump. Trump, who inherited a good economy from Barack Obama. Trump has always wanted you to believe, Fox has always wanted you to believe, the MAGA Republicans have always wanted you to believe that Trump was like God or some sort of deity, where he entered this void. There was nothing. He snapped his fingers, and the 2019 economy manifested itself single-handedly because of Donald Trump. I've always used this metaphor of the high-rise, the skyscraper. When Barack Obama left office, we had a towering skyscraper that was yet unfinished. It was not finished. He handed the job off to Donald Trump and said, hey, continue to build those stories, continue to add stories. Trump added several stories, nowhere near as much as Obama did, but he added several stories. And then in his last year on the job, the whole thing, not just his, but all the stuff he inherited from Obama, the entire tower collapsed into a gaping pit. Then he handed that gaping pit to Joe Biden. Joe Biden spent his administration and a lot of political capital trying to dig us out of that. And now, once again, we have a towering skyscraper, higher than it was under Obama, higher than it was at its peak under Trump. And now he's giving it back to Donald Trump. Donald Trump and Fox and MAGA Republicans will take all that progress and they will insist that you rewrite your memory and be like, oh my God, Donald Trump, he didn't just add the 200th floor. He was the one who built the first and second and third floor. No. Now you can believe that. I can't stop you from believing anything. Democrats can't make you believe anything. But facts are facts. And for the second time, Donald Trump will be inheriting an objectively good economy for which he deserves no credit. Now, if he continues that economic stewardship, by all means, give him credit. Let's hold everybody to the same standard. The problem is, as we've illustrated, MAGA Republicans don't want you to do that because they know if you hold Trump and Biden and Obama, if you hold Republicans and Democrats to the same standard, it looks pretty bad for Trump and the Republicans. But facts are facts. And hopefully, as we go forward, Democrats, fingers crossed, will take these facts and persuasively parlay them into a successful narrative. Because at the end of the day, and this is my final warning, we're going to end on an ominous note, it is not facts that decide election. It is feelings. And Democrats, you and I, elected Democrats, people watching here, we have to do a hell of a lot better job in taking these facts and making a persuasive narrative about them. Because you can bet your ass that Trump and the Republicans and Fox, they will be doing that at 12:01 on January 20th. In the meantime, let me know what you think in the comments.